Good morning, Order. James here. Like I promised on the last video that I spoke with Corey on, I am going to do a world building video today. Just going to cover the basics today and not really get in too in-depth on it. Everybody who plays role-playing games, writes books, writes poems even, script writes, any of that, all of that includes world building. If you're a player, the backstory you write is adding to the world you're playing in, and that's world building. The GM creating NPCs, plots, and other things for you to interact with in the world, whether they created the world or are using a pre-published one. Basically, it's creating an alternate reality that you get to enjoy. There are multiple ways to go about it. For the purposes of the video, I'm just going to touch on the ones that are related to gaming. Authors and scriptwriters and others like that use completely different techniques, which are also good, and we could learn some things from them as well. The two main methods for world building that I'm aware of are called top-down and bottom-up. The names are fairly self-explanatory. I personally end up using kind of a cross between the two. Top-down is where you start with the big picture. The gods, the cosmos, the whole planet, how many countries, things like that. And then work your way down onto the details. And this can get you a really rich, huge world, but then it's kind of difficult to have everything detailed out to the level you really want. The other way is called bottom up, and that one you start with a village. That's it, just a village. You start with a village or other starting setting point, and you fill in as your players explore and come up with things as they go. Now, this method is a bit more organic. You end up with a lot more things coming around, and random inspiration can sometimes help fill in with either method. Going with bottom-up method makes it so that the area you start in is quite detailed. You got all the NPCs figured out, where your players are going to be, what the plot's going to be, all of that right at the start. But as they explore outward from there, you're going to have to take a lot of notes, just so you don't lose track of things and can keep the world building consistent. It's a good idea to take a lot of notes as you're gaming anyway, just so that you don't forget an NPC's name that you had to come up with on the fly or some other thing like that. The top-down method, you don't have to worry about the details yet. You just have to worry about big picture things, but you don't end up with a playable product as quickly. Which is why I like to go kind of a cross between the two, where I'll deal with the big picture real quick, get the gods, get the countries figured out, what the governments are, or that sort of thing. So I get a general feel of what each country is like, what the overall theology is all like. Then I flip and pick where I'm going to start running a game in and start creating details in there and expand out as we go. That way I got at least the broad strokes figured out for everything. So if they decide to jump a ship and travel across the ocean to a country over there, I at least got the broad strokes of what that country's like. And I've made 4 worlds so far, and really only 2 of them reached that playable status. The other 2, I still had the broad strokes. I could go back to them and fill in some things. But so far what I've enjoyed is going back and taking bits from it, which is another valid way of world building. You like something you've seen in a movie, take an element from that, add it to your world. In fact, one of the best artist quotes I've ever seen is, "A good artist creates unique things. A great artist steals from 100 sources." So just go ahead and feel free to take bits and pieces from other things as you world build. You like a character in this novel that you read, go ahead, put them in as an NPC. Just think about how your world would make them different as you go. Like if you saw in a movie you really liked how this fantasy kingdom was set up, go ahead, take that system of government and that way of doing things and that culture, maybe tweak it a bit for your own purposes so that it works with the other countries you have, and go from there. It ends up being a very creative and enjoyable and fulfilling hobby. To be honest, those 4 worlds I mentioned that I've made, I've only run games in 1 of them. Oh well, it was still fun making all of them. And I hope this video helped some of you think more about the big picture involved with gaming and with worlds and things like that. And also to remember to pay attention to the details.